Welcome to the Scalability Code, the podcast that helps you get out of the shit show and start growing your business. A few times each month, you'll hear stories and commentary from visionary entrepreneurs, EOS implementers, and fractional COOs about how they've taken businesses to level 10. And now, for your host, Matt Haney.
Thanks for joining us today on the Scalability Code. My name is Matt Haney. I'm your host. And today we have Sean Rosensteel, who is an EOS implementer from Chicago, but currently in the great state of Texas. Sean, thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much, Matt. Grateful to be here.
Yeah, so fun. Well, as we do in the Scalability Code, our goal today is to talk about businesses that we've come across that have overcome challenges, visionaries that have had struggles, leadership teams that have overcome hurdles, hiring, firing, rocks, to-dos, all the stuff. And we do keep it kind of loose. My job's to have a conversation with you and hopes that somebody listening gets some value out of it.
Awesome.
So as we do, give us some backstory about your entrepreneurial journey, where you came from and how the hell you ended up caring anything about EOS.
Yeah, that's right. So grew up in an entrepreneurial family, both parents entrepreneurs, all three of my older siblings entrepreneurs. It was somewhat by accident, but I sort of absorbed a lot of entrepreneurial information growing up, and then very lucky to go to college. And I think it was my sophomore year. It was time to declare my major. And I was following in the footsteps of my three older siblings, about to check that marketing box. And I noticed that the college I attended started to offer an entrepreneurship program. So we were like the first year, that took that. So I checked that box. Admittedly, it was because it required 8 less credits.
Yeah,
senior year.
So my guy, yeah.
Better time my senior year if I took that. So that was great. Learned a lot of valuable information, of course, through that class, and then started my first business. I think I was 20, so maybe my junior year. Thought I knew everything, and went bankrupt in my mid-20s.
Wow.
So I've made a lot of mistakes in my time, and it was, looking back, of course, I'm so grateful for that experience because I learned so much about life, business, failure. I learned it was a great lesson in diversification. All of my eggs were in this business basket.
Yep. Well, hold on. Before you jump into that, we're going to get to that, but I want to roll it back because the beauty of being on a podcast is that we have the opportunity to dig a little deeper than sometimes when we're doing those intros in the elevators or intros in front of a session room. So I always love to go back, and I was doing this actually with our friend in common, Kevin Taylor, about his background in the banking business. And we ended up kind of going down a rabbit hole, which was actually quite fun for both of us. But take me back to mom and dad, both as entrepreneurs. What were they in? And kind of brothers and siblings, like what was that like? And what were your parents into when you were younger?
Yeah, so my dad owned a law firm, 50 plus years in estate planning. And of course, my mom would fill in when, the receptionist turned over, right? So she'd fill in the gaps. She was really an integrator type. They also developed a really amazing community in western burbs of Chicago called St. Charles.
Okay.
They developed an amazing neighborhood called Crane Road Estates. So when I was about 6 years old, I moved from downtown St. Charles. This is a town of about 20,000 people back then.
Yeah.
But we moved out to the country. It was about 5 minutes from downtown. And I thought there's 400 acres. I mean, it was an amazing childhood because it's such an awesome freedom. And we had barns, and we could fish in ponds, and we could explore woods. And it was amazing. I could remember my dad, when I first stepped foot on that land, we went through this barbed wire fence. And you have to understand, my dad's from the south side of Chicago.
And an estate planning lawyer.
We have no business living on this farm.
He may be a fish out of water.
Yeah, he had a vision. So we stepped through this barbed wire fence, and he's like, "Do you see that right there?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "That's a bull. So if that thing comes charging at us, you better get the hell on the other side of that fence." I'm like, "Where am I?"
Yeah.
This is
That's
wild.
fantastic.
But it was so fun.
So they created a subdivision, right? Took 400 acres and chopped it up and did all the stuff and the sewers and the electrical and the roads and the entitlement.
Yeah, my dad was the visionary and had all the relationships and saw the vision, and my mom executed every day for years, if not over.
That's awesome. How many homes did they end up getting on that 400 acres? Do you know, more or less?
That's such a great question. I don't know, but I will say that this was beautifully designed. So, minimum lot size of, I think, maybe an acre to an acre and a half.
Oh, nice. So it wasn't like tract home. It was spread up.
No.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's involved where, stone and brick only, no stucco, no siding, ponds. We had, I think, over 100 feet of topography through that neighborhood. I was just there when I visited over the summer with my kids. That we took them through it, which is neat.
That is so full circle to be able to show them that this was raw pasture land with a bull that was going to kill your dad to this turned into
it
this.
would have killed me.
But it was also, it's got to be so developed and mature now, and the trees have to be, I mean, coming back. That's fantastic.
It's absolutely beautiful, and it's pretty well known in the Chicagoland area. So in addition to that, he had a lot of commercial investments downtown in the Loop in Chicago.
Love it.
So yeah.
Wow. He was definitely an atypical, estate planning lawyer. I love, and if my estate planning lawyer is listening, she's a legend, but she is the furthest thing from like an entrepreneurial visionary that has a vision of that. So he sounds like he may not be the stereotypical, well, he's definitely not the stereotypical estate planner. That's pretty awesome.
He taught me two things. He taught me worst case scenario thinking.
Love it.
And he taught me that no one can do it better and faster than I can. So I had to learn how to delegate eventually, but that was not such a good habit. That took a while to unwire, and I'm still.
There's a whole lot of opportunity to go down that wormhole. That's awesome. So tell me about the business in your 20s that you started that failed and got you where you are today.
Yeah, in my teenage years, early 20s, it was all about money. That was like my number one value in the world, just blind ambition. I wanted to be a millionaire at 25 and just risked it all. And I was a Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad student in high school. And I knew one day I wanted to, buy a property. And so I was primarily flipping homes.
Oh, yeah.
And I was also, I had a handful of rent-to-own investments. And when 07, 08 hit, I mean, none of us were insulated from that for those of us who were homeowners.
I was in the industry you were in 07, 08. I was literally in the world you were in under a family office that was buying single family assets for flips, for holds, wholetailing, whatever it is, all the stuff. We were doing it all. And you're right. There was nobody in that space that was immune. It was everyone got it. The best of business people, the worst of business people, anywhere in the middle. That subprime lending crisis correction saved everyone, or not saved everyone, killed everyone.
Killed everyone. It wasn't fun. So overnight, we all knew how, assets quickly became liabilities. Good debt became terrible debt, like overnight.
Overnight. That's crazy. Yep. Well, you're one of the few people I know that were in that space that, I know the ones that made it out became better business owners because of it. And to your point, diversification, like really having, some of the same lessons I learned today during that time are lessons that I was literally having this morning with one of my visionaries who's got a line of credit looking to operate and is trying to, and I said, we're not spending line of credit dollars on marketing. Like that's, we're just having crucial conversations around what our use of funds are and how we're, strategy behind it, and giving him not this sermon, but this opportunity to have a constructive conversation around how to use capital if you're an early stage, business owner.
It's so important. So
that's awesome. So you got through that, and then how did you get what? There's 20 years missing somewhere.
Yeah, so I didn't know how to get a job. My resume was pretty thin.
Yeah.
Like non-existent. Probably should have went on interviews. I didn't know how to, and again, I had compared to my peers that I graduated with, I had 4 or 5 years of a blank slate. So I started my second company. I was about a year in, a digital marketing agency.
Nice.
And it was a good time to get involved with that. And about a year in, I was, struggling with all the frustrations, right? And there was hardly any profits in the business. And I was sort of thinking I may be headed down that same path,
Wow.
So I called my older brother and I vented, to put it mildly, for about an hour about the people who were working with me at the time and just all the frustrations. And he's like, I know you think you still know best. Like somehow you haven't.
You haven't been humble enough.
You were served humble pie, but apparently you didn't take it down. So
that's so funny.
I know you think you know best, but let me send you this book. This was back in 2011.
Wow.
And he sent me the book Traction, right?
Really?
And that was my first exposure to EOS was in 2000. And
that was early adoption, man. That was, what is that, 14 years ago? It's pretty early.
So I think it was published in 07.
Yeah, but the pendulum didn't swing hard until.
Yeah. What's amazing is that is still in the top 500 books of all books sold on Amazon. So you think about the different genres that sell multiples of more copies. The Eat, Pray, Loves, Harry Potter's,
Oh, yeah.
romance novels of the world, like the business, entrepreneurship, management genre is not a really big book genre on
Sure.
Amazon. So it's typically in the top 500, which is still amazing to date, right? However many years later, that's
Yeah.
18 years
Yeah,
later.
coming on 20 years of it's '07.
Very impressive.
Yeah.
And nothing's changed, right? It's very
Yeah.
impressive.
Yeah.
So I remember reading those 228 pages, whatever it was, and I'm like, I just learned more about how to run a great company in this book than I learned in 25, 26 years of like real world life experience. I was blown away by it. So he's like, just do me a favor, implement it exactly how the author prescribes it.
That's right. That's right.
So I did. So I went from a bankruptcy, and then over the next 7 years, I built, scaled, and sold 3 companies. So I went from BK to 3 successful acquisitions in a row.
Wow.
And the more I got out of the way, the better these companies did. So I owe it all to EOS. And
Man, that's fantastic. And how long have you been an implementer?
since 2015.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So what happened was, and I'm passionate about EOS because of that for obvious reasons, but like growing up, my parents were busy, and I was the youngest of 4 by a very wide margin. My dad's like, "Oh, you're a pleasant surprise." I'm like, "Dad, I'm 18. I understand like what happened to you."
I know how it happened.
So they may have been done parenting a little
But
bit.
yeah.
Came around. But I started my family. My oldest was born in 2010. So the reason I just really love and am passionate about EOS is like I had a small child before EOS, and then now I have 3 kids. But like then I experienced that balance post EOS, and what I loved about it and why I'm so passionate, because I see it happen with owners, leaders, top, bottom, left to right as we roll EOS out within these entrepreneurial companies. That sense of balance.
Yeah.
And I was able to participate at breakfast and not only be physically present, but like mentally present with my family. And same thing at dinner. And like I could really compartmentalize well and shut it off to be present with my kids. So that's kind of why I'm passionate about it.
That's awesome. How many different companies do you think you've worked with in 10 years? Do you know the number?
A little over 90
That's great.
companies and maybe 30 or so industries, verticals, markets.
So how many business owners, entrepreneurial visionaries have looked at you and said, my company's different?
Over 90% of them.
Exactly. I had this conversation with a managed services provider, or no, actually they're a voice over IP telephone. They're still doing VoIP in the world of big VoIP business. And they're like, well, how much experience do you have in VoIP telecom? I'm like, 0. Well, then how can you relate? I'm like, there's the same 5 to 6 pillars in every single business you've ever looked at in the entire world. And I said, you don't need a subject matter expert. You're the subject matter expert. I don't need to tell you how to make the sausage. I need to help you look at it differently. And that's my favorite question to ask folks is how many times have you heard my business is different? And the reality is there's nuances to every one of them, but most of them operate under the same principles and the same, just general assets.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it goes back to E-Myth, right? With Michael Gerber. It's like,
Right.
we're really good technicians, and then we have this seizure and we want to build a team, and, managing and optimizing human focus and energy is different than like what it is that we do, right?
100%.
So it's totally different ball of wax there. And a lot of us aren't equipped. I mean, I didn't learn that in school. Like, how do you manage and grow a team and a business and have a healthy culture and all these things? Where do you get taught that, right? So like that book Traction was the closest thing that I had absorbed at the time to really show me not only what to do, but the way in which you go about doing it.
Yeah.
Right. And yeah, everyone said, well, our business is different. I don't disagree with that necessarily. I'll argue that my practice is different. That, there's 42 implementers in Dallas alone.
Wow.
Right. So I'll argue that my practice is different than the other 41 implementers here. And I'm probably right in certain regards, but I think it comes down to what they value. So
Yeah.
the way I respond there is like, oh, well, I may not have experience in that lane necessarily, but my job is to have experience with EOS,
That's right.
is to have experience in that lane. And what I say is like, either you value that and you want someone who has that history and experience and everything else, and if so, let me put a little PSA out in the community and see if anyone's worked with a similar type of business as yours.
Right.
The flip side of that is oftentimes people value an unbiased perspective in the room that doesn't have that thing called confirmation bias.
That's right. I call them pre-existing conditions.
That's right. So you're one or the other. So
Yep.
if I don't have experience and you value industry experience, let me connect you with someone who can help you out. No problem. I'm not going to argue that.
Yeah.
But if they're open to this idea that we want a third party, unbiased perspective in the room. Also, we're not there. I mean, you're different, right? But as an implementer, we're not there to provide answers. We're there to facilitate the right answers in the room.
Yeah, and that, by the way, that is so frustrating sometimes. The best EOSIs I've been with don't give answers, but it's also like I can see it in some of their eyes, and I'm just like, you know what to do. You know the answer. You don't always have a silver bullet, but sometimes. But your point is right, though, Sean. And your job is to facilitate and bring that and have the leadership team come up with the answers, not to say, hey, this is what you need to do. I've seen this 12 times before. Go do it this way.
Yeah, I'll confess a little something here. So early on in my journey, so in 15, exited that last company, sent out some sort of announcements to some of our bigger clients at the time. They responded to me and said, what are you doing over there?
Yeah.
And I said, I don't really know, but let me send you this book. And then they said, can you do this here? And I said, I don't know. Right. So that's when I got plugged in with EOS. But so what's really interesting to me anyway is early on in my journey when I was working with other companies, I thought I had answers and I would give them answers in the session room. And I would say 50% of the time I was right every time, one of those kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So I just made this mistake again a few weeks back with a client because something happened outside of the session and I called the integrator and I think I laid into him for a good 45 minutes. I mean, I gave him every piece of my mind and I was very opinionated. And he stayed where he was. He did not revert back. He held his own. And then 3 or 4 weeks later, this was now last week, I talked to him and the team, and that was the right decision. And so I'm like, well, this is why I don't give my opinions in the room, because what the heck do I know? I don't work in your business, right? I help you work on it once a quarter.
Right.
I'm not there in the day-to-day, in the trenches, like I don't have a ton of perspective, and I usually don't give it. And I made the mistake 4 weeks ago of giving it, and I was wrong.
Well,
So that's why we don't tend to give those opinions, because what do we know?
Yeah. No, that's right. That's well said. And it's like you said, it's a little different than me as the fractional integrator. It's because I'm definitely involved in a lot of those decisions, especially around hiring and firing. And I have a pretty good, bead on that in terms of culture fit against core values. I mean, that's something that as a third party, we can all look from the outside in and say, I know your core values. I'm looking at them. I helped you write them. I helped you live by them. And this person is or isn't. So, but you're right. Subject matter expertise and nuance around things, I have to get in those weeds. And that's what I enjoy. But I probably would have a little more information on the topic, and maybe not a little more information, just a little more closeness to it, right? As it relates. But business decisions inside the business on, do we stay this lane? Do we go that lane? Some of these entrepreneurs are just like, if I knew the answer, I wouldn't need you, which is true. Let's figure it out. Let's go to the leadership team and throw it up on the board and see how we can IDS it and come to it.
Yeah, I think that's probably more of a challenge for you as a fractional integrator than it might be for us as an implementer.
Yep.
I had a really big aha moment. I think it was 2 or 3 months ago. I have this team that's private equity owned, and they just have such an amazing integrator. And I was asking him, because like they're moving quick. I mean, it's amazing what they're doing. I think they were doing like 40 million in 24, and through acquisition, they're projected for like 260 million in 25. So they are like moving.
They're growing.
They are growing.
That's awesome.
So I was asking Mike, who is the integrator, I'm like, what is your soup? Like, I don't know how you're doing it, managing so much chaos and just removing so many obstacles. Like, what do you think your unique ability, right, or superpower? Like, what's your zone of genius? And he's like, I can tell you right now, RPRS, right people, right seats. He's like, that is so, if you're familiar with that delegate and elevate, that is so upper left quadrant.
Yep.
And he's like, PE has sort of enabled me to just move as fast I can. And they recognized it. I already knew it. And they just cut me loose and gave me all the autonomy. And he has assembled such a rock star, hard hitting leadership team. And it's how they're able to, manage and sustain this growth thus far, knock on wood. But it's just amazing. So I would think as a fractional integrator, like part of your DNA needs to be like, we're really tuned into, and it's one of our superpowers, RPRS,
Yep.
right?
Yep. No, it is huge. And, it's so fascinating. I'm going to segue to that, to a client that I'm actually interviewing to come on as a fractional. You'll love this. Second generation family business. Dad has passed away. Kids are probably early to mid 40s. So our age ish. And brother, sister, all on the leadership team, all running this family business. And
So no complexity.
no complexity, no drama,
Easy,
no pre-existing conditions. But as I was meeting all of them, I said to them, we're going to have some wrong person, wrong seat issues, which means we've got to get to right person, right seat. And that might mean that you are in the wrong seat. And I said, I want you to sit with that, because I'm not saying you are or you aren't. I'm telling all three of the siblings the same thing. But it's hard because they've been doing this for 20 years and they've reached a plateau. And I said, you guys have to understand that my job is to say to you, hey, you're in the sales seat, but you're not selling. You're in the ops seat, but you're not operating. You're in the visionary seat, but you're working 4 levels down. Like, we have to figure these things out. And your point is, with that PE story in the company that you want, it becomes crystal clear if you are the right person in the right seat. But how you execute, what you do with it, is the whole nother can of worms. And for your integrator that you referenced, having that autonomy to go do those things without a bunch of constraints around it is priceless, right? Like, that's the superpower.
Yeah, I find often that there are certain visionary types who will hire an integrator, and the integrator feels a bit like it was a window dressing type of a decision. And they're still pulling the strings, and they're still making the final calls, and they're breaking ties, and they kind of cut that integrator off at the knees and really disempower him or her.
Yep.
And that's one of the biggest issues, at least I've seen, is that sort of dynamic.
You are listening to the Scalability Code. I'm your host, Matt Haney, founder of Sinclair Ventures, and we help visionary entrepreneurs like you get out of the shit show and focus on growing your business. We offer fractional COO and leadership coaching services that free up that brain of yours to focus on what's next. Learn more about us at sinclairventures.com. Now back to it. Well, how do you get in that? I mean, I know how I handle it, but I'd love to know. I mean, I'm sure this happens with new clients, right? You're onboarding them, you're trying to figure out the dynamics of the business. How transparent do you get with the person who's asking you to come facilitate their growth sessions?
Depends on circumstances, right? So like we need to be really good at reading rooms and using discretion.
Right.
So it's sort of a in the moment, case by case basis based on all the data I have. Do we bring this up publicly, or do we have a call or a meeting behind the scenes, right?
By the way, it's either the right decision or a.
That's right.
It's so hard for you guys to to say, am I going to use this chance to say what needs to be said? And you're definitely going to get the leadership team on your side. But you've got this visionary who's brought you in to help facilitate. And man, that's a diabolical moment.
You have to see the big picture, and you've got to see it from all angles, and then you just have to do your best to use your discretion. And hopefully most of the time you do the right thing.
Right.
We're all human. We all make mistakes. And if you do, you try to repair them quickly, obviously. But
right.
It's more of an art.
It is.
Right? Science. So
yeah. Everyone asks, what is a fractional COO? What's a fractional integrator? I'm like, part therapist, part operations consultant, part business coach, part shoulder to cry on.
Bingo. Yep.
But it's just being there for the team. And I read this article, which I'll send to you, that, and I shared it on my LinkedIn about being a super facilitator. And it's fascinating to see what you guys, and partly me when I'm facilitating the weekly L10s, is to engage the entire room. And I think, Sean, one of your skill sets, which you've alluded to, and I know from just getting to know you, is that you bring everyone in the room to the conversation and find, if you're on the leadership team, if you're sitting in this room for a reason, we have to find a way how to bring you in and get your opinions, because my experience, most times, a lot of the times, the softest voice has the most to offer. And that super facilitation of a session or a L10 or even a one-on-one, finding time to give people a chance to have that conversation or to say those things.
Yeah, I call it creating space, right? So I was out a couple of weeks back with another implementer here in Dallas, and I don't know how we got onto this conversation, but I said something like, at the end of the day, what we do is create space where people can show up in a real, raw, open, honest, candid way and feel comfortable doing it in hopefully a way that's respectful and, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, how do you create space? And I'm like, I don't know, but I'm glad you asked that question because I want to be more intentional about that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, that's what we're doing here is we're creating space where that open, honest dialogue can transpire and exist and all the rest of it. And he's like, yeah, I'd like to know, like, what do you do? And I'm like, it's not in my awareness, but thanks for asking that. And I'm actually going to start paying attention to, because I'm sure I'm strategic about it, but I'm unconscious about it.
It is definitely unconscious. It is definitely unconscious. But you're right. It is one of those things, if we could bottle or pinpoint or run towards, it would help everyone. But you're right. And it's just reps too, man. I mean, you've done hundreds and hundreds of sessions.
That's the art part of it, right? The art is the reps and the experience and the time. The science you can teach.
That's right.
I'd love to bring the art more over to the science so that I'm more aware of it and I can begin improving those things, but also then we can share those, right? So
yeah, that's awesome.
Yep.
Well, let's jump into a couple other things. What do you think, and we kind of covered this, but I want to get it specifically, and I think this soundbite or this piece is important to me, is think a second, but what do you think in your experience or in the 10 years of doing this, the hardest thing that visionaries specifically struggle with managing people? If you could pinpoint it to one thing where it's like, as a visionary, as working with all these visionaries, the hardest part they have about managing people is what?
I can say this because I struggled with this myself, and I still find myself at times struggling with my integrator, getting out of their own way.
Mm.
So whether that's delegation or consuming the oxygen in a meeting, right?
Right.
Oftentimes I have to write a little note and just nonchalantly go by the visionary and say, speak less, speak last, allow this team to rise up. They're never going to trust their teams if they don't give them the opportunity and the space to show up and present their expertise and their ideas and their opinions. They're never going to elevate to that level of visionary. And so that to me, just again, based on my own experience, what I've seen in the rooms, is the visionary's inability to let go.
Yeah.
It's really hard, right?
It's very hard.
And unfortunately, I was talking to Mark O'Donnell, the CEO of EOS,
Yep.
right? Visionary of EOS.
Yep.
I'm like, it's really too bad that there isn't the Bible on delegation.
Yeah. You write a book.
How
Easy book topic. Go produce it, Sean.
Do we not have, as leaders, managers, visionaries, integrate the Bible on how to let the F go?
Yep.
How is that possible?
Yeah. No, I think that's going to be added to the traction library at some point.
What I'm excited about is Mark Winters,
Yeah.
who is the author of Rocket Fuel
Sure.
with Gino, right? His new book is called Visionary. So I'm really hoping that there's at least a chapter, maybe the whole thing, I don't know, but I'm really excited for what he comes up with as far as helping visionaries delegate. And typically what I do is I found some really good information within, I'm a big reader. So every once in a while there's a section in a chapter or a whole chapter on it. I'm like, ooh, got to remember that. So I have this kind of this playbook that I've developed over the years when it's relevant to say, hey, let's talk about some of these things. And here are some books. It's not in one book, but it's here are 8 books where I've found some sanity in this idea of letting go, and how do I, sort of fuel that trust for my own peace of mind so that I am willing to let go. And there are tools, right, within EOS that assist us with this, like GWC, of course, is helpful.
Yep.
We have to have confidence that whoever we're putting this responsibility on, GWC's it.
Yeah.
The delegate and elevate tool is helpful for them, the person you're delegating to self-assess whether or not it's in their upper quadrant. So we have some tools, which is great, but I don't feel like they are all things to all people. They're a piece of the puzzle, but there's a lot more. And so much of it is psychology.
Right.
And that's what I think we're missing in everything that's been written about delegations thus far, is the psychology needs behind being able to let go.
No, you're so I'm chuckling in my mind here, because it's like whenever I hear one of my guests bring it up, I always go back to conversations and I had my one-on-one with one client this morning and a kind of follow-up call on someone that I'm discussions about engaging with, and the visionary in my software company that I'm working with is hiring his first salesperson. And I said, we're working on the onboarding plan for the salesperson. It's like, what does it mean? And I'm like, you're going to have to get out of the way. And he's like, oh yeah. I'm so good with that. Don't worry about it. I'm like, right. Put that pin in. And then the next conversation I'm having, totally different, was with a founder-led service-based business. They're a very successful wood flooring and cabinetry business. Very successful, do good work. And we're talking about his cabinet business and the struggles. And he's like, listen, I really want to get out of this deal. And I'm like, I've heard that, not all the time, but every time. And it's hard. I'm not saying I can do it. I'm dealing with it with building my own practice, not sitting on prospective sales calls and just trusting it. And like, you know what? I don't want to see the recording. I don't want to see anything. I want you guys to handle it. I trust you. You're talented. Go do it. It's freaking hard, Sean.
It is.
It's really hard.
We all struggle with this.
Absolutely.
If everybody honest in the room. But two things. One's mindset. One's more of a logical exercise. But I read very recently, like earlier this year, I read Dan Martell's Buy Back Your Time.
Okay.
And one of the biggest takeaways for me wasn't one of his frameworks or tools. It was something that he wrote, which was like 80% done is 100% freaking awesome. Something around that mindset. And it helped me realize, like, yeah, gosh, if I have someone who can bring this from, that end zone all the way to the red zone over here on this side of the field, and I get handed the ball, that just saved me a ton of time. Right. And it also helps with that. I have a perfection mindset. So it also helps that done is better than perfect, progress over perfection. So I love that. 80% done is 100% freaking awesome. And if you need to carry the ball over the end zone, all the other stuff is done. And a good example of that, and another thing I teach my clients when I train on the delegate and elevate tool, is I found it helpful to work that tool from two angles, a macro angle, and we can talk about LinkedIn, what this 80% done is 100% awesome. Let's talk about LinkedIn. If I'm not hitting my LinkedIn marks every week, it's because I hate the administrative work behind posting.
It's terrible.
It's not my highest and best use of time. And I truly feel like I'm doing my practice a disservice if I'm sitting there editing.
Yep.
So on a macro level, I could say LinkedIn is in this compartment over here. And let's say I like it and I'm good at it. It's not a unique ability for me, but I like it and I'm good at it. Well, why do I struggle with it? Because I love the creative. The creative aspect is in my unique ability. But then like taking that idea, or if I do a video, or if I create an idea for a post, taking it from just initial conception to it's published and now we got to engage. In a perfect world for me, just keep me on the creative, right? So 80% of putting something on LinkedIn is actually administrative. And here I have an integrator who's like salivating at the mouth to help me and to get these things going, but I'm holding on to it.
Get the hell out of the way, Sean.
Yeah, so on a macro level, it's there, but if I investigate further and I use that tool on a micro level, and I just sort of put LinkedIn into a corner, and I say, well, if I break LinkedIn out in 3 to 7 steps, now where would I compartmentalize?
Right.
And oh my gosh, only 1 out of the 5 steps necessary to hit my marks every week on LinkedIn have to do with my upper quadrant.
That's right.
Everything else is lower. It happens to be in her upper.
Get her
so
done.
If I just became more effective at delegating, so you could kind of use that tool on a macro level, but then it always warrants further investigation, especially when you're struggling. I think it was Who Not How by Dan Sullivan in that book, and Ben Hardy. They talk about how procrastination is actually wisdom. And when it happens, you should sit back and have awareness for maybe I'm not the right person for this responsibility, this role, this job, whatever it is. It's wisdom.
Yep.
And that's helped too. But I love that tool because logically you can just create awareness around what's consuming or demanding your time. And sometimes you have to zoom in a little further to something you're struggling with and understand the next 3 to 7 steps that make that one role happen. And then you're like, oh, no wonder I'm not getting it done, is because some of it is not in my upper quadrants, right? So you can kind of use it on a macro and micro level.
Interesting. No, I love it. And I love your reference to the quadrants. And I part of the joy of getting to interview EOSIs is to understand ways selfishly that I can be a better integrator and referencing the tools. And I think that's definitely something I need to pull that reference chart out as we're working on the accountability chart and figure out sort of what the highest and best use of each person's skill, because, and it also goes back to making sure we're hiring for what we need, the personality types that we need, and understanding if your highest and best is over here, then we need to find somebody that's the opposite of you, i.e. the visionary to the integrator, or however that works down the line of the company. And understanding we're hiring people that don't have the same unique ability you do. Otherwise, it's like we're creating a problem on a problem.
Yeah, exactly. And if it comes time to like, you're going to start focusing on documenting a process, that's like big bulbs glaring at you. Then all of a sudden it's like, 80% of this, 90% of this, 50%, whatever it is, I shouldn't be doing that work, right?
Yeah.
It's the old, like, especially for visionaries, anyone on the leadership team, like, don't do $25 an hour work, that idea, mindset, right? And that I think was who, not how. That comes from Strategic Coach, but
we always talk about working 2 levels down and the struggles and challenges that come with that, between making sure that like you are doing the work of the people, and the people, not the people in terms of a derogatory meaning, but the people on the team, like, and they know that too. Like, they're not idiots. They know that you're trying to do their job for them. Like,
that's right.
And the distrust and challenge you create out of that, while it feels like I can just get it done myself, the reality is you're taking longer, not the best person to do the job, and you're creating contention potentially with the team.
That's right.
Stepping on toes.
That's right. And depending on the size of the business, like, I love looking at the accountability chart and being like, visionary, we need you on the $1 million problems. Highest and best use of your brain is there. Leadership team, $100,000 problems. Next level down, 10,000. We need everyone here matters. Everyone is important. No matter if your problem is $10 or $1 million, there's a place here for you.
Right.
So this isn't a hierarchy, but like, we all need to be focused on the right level of problems.
100%.
And the further you can put that visionary into that growth lane, into that creative problem solving lane, everything else, the better. But oftentimes, because of the size of businesses we work with, that is a process in and of itself, right? If they finally get there, they feel like they're going out to pasture and they kind of lose their purpose, lose themselves. They get all disoriented. Their hands need to be held through that.
Yes. Very well said. That transition is challenging. And, you and I are lucky in the sense that we get to be, counselors a lot to some of these folks. When you create I don't think it's unsaid or unspoken, creating the structure and the accountability and the process does make a lot of visionaries feel less than, like, because 100%. You started your business.
It's their baby.
Absolutely. And you started your business. I started my business by getting the endorphin rush by solving problems and growing and scaling. And you take that away and they do find themselves, it's that, I just want more time to do this. And you get it and they go, I got to create chaos because I need something to do. And I'm like, to your point, go start a new business unit. Let's go back to the long-term issues. We can find something that's not distracting or disrupting to what the rest of the team's doing.
I was here. Some of them can be the chief of police and the lead arsonist. Right. So
right.
It's like, again, I find no fault. I honor them. I love them to death. They're living in the results economy. They took the risk.
Yeah.
So
it's exactly
I admire them tremendously.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, a couple more questions and I'll let you hop off. What do you do outside of work? Like, what keeps you, challenged? Obviously, you got some children. I got some children. But is there any hobbies or any passions that, keep you fueled?
I have too many, Matt. I have too many.
A man of many, many hobbies.
Yeah. So I recently, this year has been a big year of self-care.
All right.
Unfortunately, went through a divorce last year. And still working through it, but
sure.
A lot of big changes occurred in my life and my children's lives.
Sure.
So this year's been a big year of self-care. So I've been doing a lot of reading.
Nice.
I read about a book a week, and I've been out of that habit for 3 to 5 years. Like, it's been a while. I used to read a book a week consistently for over a decade. I've been out of that. So getting back into that feels really right. And I'm reading more like fiction and spirituality, less business books.
Yeah.
I still read those on occasion, but more just kind of, it's like my escape, right?
Yeah.
So more just kind of enjoying a free day and laying out and getting some good reading done and using my imagination and all that.
Good for you, man. Well, that's awesome.
Reading.
I appreciate the vulnerability and humility there. That's always something that we all need to focus on, but good for you for leaning in. And a book a week. Damn, that's impressive, man. And the intentionality behind it's even more impressive.
Yeah. So that's been good. I've been doing a lot of swimming this year, which has been awesome. A lot of walking and listening to audiobooks. So typically I'll take a business book down via Audible. I really love pickleball. I used to be really great at pickleball, and
Getting back into it. Do you play in a league, or like? Is there a local like? How do you find competition?
yeah, I ate it up during COVID. So I was in a racquetball league for many years.
Oh, man.
And COVID hit, and it was like, maybe I shouldn't be sharing this box with 3 other men, and we're sweating and huffing and puffing, and we don't know what's going on with COVID yet.
Nobody,
so I stopped that, and I had a really good friend in the neighborhood who's like, dude, you got to come play pickleball. And I'm like, that's for old people with bad knees. Why the heck would I waste my time playing pickleball? And then I'm so grateful that he was persistent. And after like 3 months of him bugging me weekly, I finally played. And after 5 minutes of being on the court, I'm like, I'll never play racquetball again. This is like being a giant standing on a ping pong table. I just love it.
Exactly right.
And there's so much strategy.
So
and
much.
It's like chess. So I love anything that keeps me radically present.
Yeah. Well, you can't do anything when you've got a pickleball paddle in your hand
No.
except play pickleball.
Like if you're playing competitively and you're thinking about what happened an hour ago or what's happening tonight, you're going to get hit in the face and there's going to be a mark.
Yep. Yeah, I reference that a lot with my kids. It's screen-free activities, and pickleball is one of them. My 13-year-old son, loves pickleball. And I don't play. My oldest daughter is a competitive tennis player. She lives at a tennis academy out of state as a 15-year-old, and she crushes it. But I love that sport because I think it's done a lot of great things. I think there's been a lot of orthopedic surgeons that have benefited from the pickleball craze, but I also know a lot of middle-aged men and women that have really found a lot about themselves in the court, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's true. I've been playing less competitively this year because of the injuries. I mean, everyone I know who I used to compete with was out for 6, something happened. I was very fortunate.
But man, talk about a great game, racquetball. You mentioned racquetball. I have some friends that played, and I grew up in a town in Texas where the YMCA was the only place that had racquetball courts, and my dad's buddies, he never played, but his buddies used to. And watching those guys come out of the gym while we're practicing basketball or whatever, they come out of the racquetball court, and I'm like, they're just drenched with the glasses, and they're just, ruined from playing full speed in that.
I've got welts all over their body.
Oh my gosh. Did you ever play squash or you ever hit a squash?
No, I never got into squash.
Yeah, those paddle sports are fun. I feel like there's maybe with any sport, but specifically racket sports, there's the 1% and everyone else.
That's right.
Like you're either really freaking good at it or you just
annoy the heck out of the people who are really good.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, I'm a golfer, and I do feel like I do feel that way too. It's the one thing I always tell everyone, it's the one thing I'm decent at or good at, and playing with someone who is less than decent is very painful.
Yeah.
Very painful because
Not
it's
good
like
cart golf. Send him in the other cart.
I'm not better than you. I mean, I'm better at you, but I'm not any better than you. We all have our own problems. That's awesome. Well, hey, Sean, this has been awesome to get to know you, and I really appreciate you joining and sharing some vulnerability and sharing some of your expertise and wisdom. And I really look forward to seeing you in a few weeks up at the We Run on EOS event in Dallas. I'm looking forward to getting to know the other 41 of you implementers. That's crazy to me. Down in Austin, we've got 10. You guys got 41 3 hours up the road.
It's crazy. Yeah. As I mentioned, I'm in session, but I will pop over as soon as I can when that's done.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us on the Scalability Code, and I look forward to talking to you soon, Sean.
Thanks so much, Matt, for having me. I appreciate it.
You got it.
Thank you for listening to the Scalability Code. If you made it this far, please follow the show on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Let's get out of this show together. We'll see you next time on the Scalability Code.